welcome back to Old School. Today we're going to be in Mental Acuity 101. We're going to talk a little bit about what brought me to the place of writing this book that my whole journey and YouTube channel and my platform kind of brings together. I feel it was probably about 10 years ago when I frankly believe I was called, tapped on the shoulder by God to write this story, write my story. And at the time I felt a little like Moses, like, are you sure? I mumble, I don't write, my daughter's the author, all of that good stuff. And you know, you don't really win a debate with God. You either learn it the first time the easy way, or you have some stuff that will get you there eventually, and it might not be so comfortable. I had quite a journey to that point in time, but not walked through my divorce or some of the other things that would be experiences, but not necessarily define all of who I am. And I'm not saying his timing was off at all. I'm sure if I had been obedient, the book would have been what he wanted it to be too. But I did hesitate. I felt my marriage was not great at that time either, and I just didn't know that I was in the place to tell that story. I know that from the things from my childhood, he has walked me through that healing, and perhaps what the purpose was going to be at that time was maybe to get me situated for what was next. And so I didn't completely say no and push it aside. I actually just kind of thought, all right, what does that look like? What does me writing this out look like? Where are the words? And just as Moses was given the words both directly and through Aaron, I feel that has happened for me. I was in a Bible study about Isaiah. We had some alternate, scriptures, of course, that you always pull in out of or in context. And Esther was brought in at one point, and something hit me during that part of our study. It just resonated with me. The things that she went through to prepare herself, and how she seized and was obedient for the time that she had been put in the place she was put in, and how all of that would impact me from then till now is just mind-blowing and completely divine intervention. So it really struck me, and I did start to do research more on structurally a book, how would I want it to be laid out, what is the point, so what do I need in it? Is it supposed to be just my historical fiction, nonfiction, or was it supposed to be in the form of devotion, in the form of Bible study, in the form of something that could be laid out more secularly? I just didn't know. And at times in my life when I'm struggling with the obedience or the next step, I've been advised by people wiser than me that just taking the next step, it doesn't mean that you completely are off the path. It just may mean you need to course correct around a different set of bushes or rocks than where you're headed. It's not going to be smooth. It's not going to be all paved and laid out. You are going to have to build your character through some of the high waters, some of the, famine, some of the drought, some of the things that happen on our journeys. So that was where I started. I started to, just kind of research the layout of books, research what was my angle, was it going to be about what I had walked through and how he had prepared me? Was it going to be the journey to seek out maybe additional healing? I didn't know, and in reality, as time has moved along, it's really kind of been all of it. It's my story, and whatever my story contains, it's in there, and there are multiple lanes that has entailed, some of which were disobedience, some of which were me being stubborn, some of them I think honestly he probably would have liked. God didn't change his mind about divorce and marriage. I'm just saying that ultimately the fact that mine was going to end in divorce because of the infidelity, it was going to happen. And I probably stayed many years past when he was giving me the grace and the out. But here we are. So I didn't take the grace, I didn't take the out. I continued to fight for it, even though in my soul it was so hurt and so broken and so visible that I was the only one that was doing any fighting. So, you know, there's multiple pathways to our journey. David had layers of disobedience in his, and he was a man after God's own heart. So I don't beat myself up. I don't feel like I'm incapable or unworthy to do this. It was just hard. It was like I couldn't see past what would anybody want with what I've been through. Well, then I went through a period of a couple of years as a women's ministry director of putting on women's retreats and conferences, and then I had my part to play in the breakout sessions that I would talk about, and some of the things that are in my journey that were pretty painful. And I fought. No, not gonna talk. I have to organize this. They need me over here telling them where to go and where to sit. And the Lord, you know, chastised me and brought me around, and I got in line and held those breakout sessions. And what was fascinating is that in a room full of 30 women, 9 out of 10 in there had been in a similar journey or some component of the journey. And he so clearly showed me that the scripture that talks about receiving the comfort from the comfort that we've received, being able to give that comfort to others. And yeah, I am not arrived. I'm not perfect. I am broken, and everything hasn't been put back together, but I have walked through some of the things that he's asking me to put out there so that others understand that that can happen too. And by not speaking and by holding that back, how many people that could have heard how to find the peace and find the space where you don't let your brokenness define you, you let whose you are define you. And you know, I can't beat myself up for that, but I have to live with that and realize, okay, so get with the program. Let's move along. Because don't you want to help as many people as you possibly can with the same grace and forgiveness and mercy and love that you've received? I mean, wouldn't anybody want that? Even outside of a faith-based realm, wouldn't anybody want that? And so, but it is my Lord and Savior, it is my King that did that for me and has brought me to that place. So, you know, delayed obedience is disobedience, and so I was disobedient, but you know, the obedience was laying in a little pile somewhere in my house, and I'd get to it periodically. And then along came my divorce, which added another layer of the healing that you've been given to my process and to my story. And it was hard. That was hard. That was very hard, and something I didn't really want to talk about. I had talked about it ad nauseum. We had been through multiple rounds of counselors. I just didn't want to talk about it anymore. And then the actual divorce process was so horrific. I thought the infidelity was the worst that was going to happen to me, but it was worse. And I would be crying out, like, I don't know what the next step is. I want to stay faithful and true to myself as a Christian woman, as a godly woman, so my daughter could watch me handle this well. And I just didn't know I had the strength or courage to handle it well. Because just because it was being ripped apart, and just because he was being horrible and the divorce was horrible, didn't mean I had stopped with a light switch, loving him or him being her dad or whatever. So all of that just was just a lot to take in, and a lot to think. I need to I need to tell this story. I need to write this down. And mind you, in the heat of the divorce, in the middle of it, he wasn't asking me for that. He was holding me. He was showing me what I was going to down the road have as my story. And he comforted me and took care of me, and he has been my provider my whole life. But this was next level like, I know you don't have it. I know you don't have it in you to do this, and I got you. And it's hard. I love my God, and he's very real. He's very real to me. He's very palpable. But there are times when you're sitting in a room by yourself and you want somebody with skin on to just get a hold of you. But he makes his presence very known to the brokenhearted. And he did that. He did that for me. So even in my disobedience, and even though we moved into another phase, he was still there. He was holding me. He was providing for me a job, the outcome of the divorce, you know, trying to help my daughter with her healing through it. All of those things, he gave me the blueprint. Well, his word is the blueprint, but I mean, just really came alongside me and said, you've got this. I know it feels hard, and I know you feel broken, but what's going to happen is you're going to be stronger than you ever thought possible, and you are kinder and more gracious and forgiving than you ever thought possible, and only because he gave that to me. And that is a huge portion of my whole life, because with each phase of abuse, starting with my father and all the way to my ex, I had to issue forgiveness, because in no instance did anyone come to me and ask for forgiveness. Every one of them, I had to say, I forgive you, because I can't carry that bitterness. And bitterness only eats at the container it's held in, and I can't do that. I just can't. I'm not made that way. I'm a choose joy kind of gal. I mean, when people call me, hey, how's it going? Fabulous. People know that's like my word, fabulous. And it's not fake. It's not covering up. It's not pretending. It's a choice. When we get up each day, we can sit in the crap that's happening to us. And maybe we don't on some days have anything, but we can sit in that, or we can say, let's go. Thank you for the breath you're letting me breathe. Thank you for waking me up today. And let's get after this. Let's make this day, moment by moment, joyful. And it is a choice. And so that's what I do. And that has been a huge component too. In each area of my book, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, in each of those areas, your heart, your mind, your soul, your body, all the energy that you can drain from your body by choosing to sit in sadness. I mean, don't get me wrong, divorce is sad. Being alone is sad, you know, but to sit in it will only just make then your health worse and your mindset worse, and you're never going to recover and get to the other side from something like that if you choose to sit in it. And so again, all these layers are what were components of this book. For me, it was exciting because it did make my mind just really sharp. I had to, you know, I had always like been the proofreader for my daughter, who's an author. She's written poems, she's written books, she's had some things published, and this was not something I asked for. This was not something I sought. I never in my lifetime have I ever thought I would write a book, ever. But now I've been corrected, and he's actually even corrected me to the point that there might be follow-up books. I don't know. I'm along for the ride. So with each step, like after the divorce and then after some of that recovery, we got back on track. We got back into the meat of it. Certain things were happening. I had a writers group from a pretty well-known Christian writer, Lisa Turkers. I got involved with that, and that has led to multiple social media groups of other aspiring or actual authors, which has been awesome, because you have somebody who has less followers than you do who's aspiring and writing their first book, and then you've got somebody who's got several 100,000 and who's written a book, but they're still in there. They're still in there in the process. They're still shoring each other up and chatting with each other, and that has just been invigorating for me. I'm kind of academic. I would be a lifetime learner. I think you should be, but I mean, like, if they would pay me to go to college classes to evaluate them or something, that would be a blast. I mean, some of them now, because they're ideology driven and not just the fun content. And by fun content, I do mean things like history and economics and whatever, but still, I would love that. And so I have always, you know, wanted to keep my mind fresh, keep my mind sharp, learn whatever's new and up and coming, and getting to write this book and getting to walk the process of writing this book has been just mentally invigorating for me and inspiring. The process of getting a book published, of writing what they call a book proposal, I have a couple here, that I had no earthly clue. When I was writing the first one, I was like, okay, Lord, I've stepped in the wrong lane. Obviously I made a wrong turn. And instead he informed me that no, this is a learning process too. No, you're not ready to publish your book. You're so not ready, but you are close, and you are getting to this place where understanding the things you need to have together to submit a book proposal will get your mind in the game. Like, you're gonna stop setting stuff aside, and you're gonna pull it over, and you're gonna keep going, because you know you need this, that, and the other, or you can't submit the book proposal and it's not going to be complete. And so it has taught me the networking that's necessary. It's taught me the platform building that's necessary. It's taught me so many things to just walking the book proposal process. And these authors that are in these groups with me talk about how they've had 30 or 40 rejections before the first book, or they not give up, but like go to self-publishing through Amazon or something. And my book can't go that route. It needs to be a hardcover, and it has a workbook with it. And so I have to walk the process, and I don't believe I was called to do this for it not to be done the right way. He may have walked me through this process just for me to learn all of this, and that's fine. I'm good with that. It would be nice if, like I've said, the comfort that I have received, I can put that out there, and I believe that is the case. So now it's a matter of, how is that going to roll? Am I going to submit to Christian publishers and that's where it's going to go? Or because this is the kind of light, this is the kind of information that anybody should desire, that this kind of comfort and this kind of grace should be available to everyone. And I'm not saying it's not when it's at a Christian bookstore. You can still end up at Barnes & Noble, but you typically need to be a Bob Goff or Beth Moore or Lisa Turk or somebody big. I don't know how that rolls, but I have a big God, and he's asked me to do this. So as long as I stay obedient and I keep walking the process, and I'm having a blast learning this, it has made my mind just reel with new information. And then the process of this platform building, these YouTube videos that I'm getting to do, never in my lifetime. My daughter's my little editor, and she just is so inspiring. She's like, Mom, you're doing such a great job. I never thought I would ever see you do this, and I couldn't agree with her more. There are days when I'm doing it and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Who would watch this? But this is my process, and this is how I best feel it mates up with my book and with what could happen down the line. So we'll see, you know, but mental sharpness for every step of the way, because writing a book is not for the faint of heart. Everybody acts like it's just simple and you can sit down and you write away. And so many times you sit down and a blank page is in front of you, and no, that's just truly not the case. There's there's writer's block, as they say. Because it does have to be done right, and it does have to have a flow. I have a group of ladies that help me out. I call them my focus group. They are not authors, but they are friends, they are believers, they are women. Not that my book isn't pertinent to men too, but they have been able to let me give them what I'm looking for, or what component of a proposal, or what component of a book I need, and really just give me their attention to detail. I give it to them as homework. They email back to me their comments and their feedback, and it has just been awesome. I feel like almost like I'm letting them have a little mental acuity and a little, growth in that regard, and how fun, and especially having somebody look from the outside. They know me well enough to know the general gist of the content, but not necessarily how the whole thing was coming together. And so that's been a great process to get their feedback, like, oh, now I get it, or I didn't understand how this was going to flow until you put these things together. And the entire process of it has built me as an entire woman, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. But seriously, the mental component, I'm 60 years old. I don't think I have dementia or mental issues in my family. And I definitely haven't been diagnosed with anything, but I do believe in just being a daily learner. Learn something new every day, get in there and keep your mind sharp. I play Words with Friends. It's the only game I really play. You know, stuff like that keeps your mind sharp. I'm a bookkeeper. I'm constantly working with numbers or with various concepts in regard to accounting, all of that to keep my mind sharp. And you know, and just being a lifelong learner and take in information. A lot of times my daughter teases me that I have all this useless but yet great Jeopardy information. And I told her it's just because I'm old and I've read a lot of books. Watched a lot of movies too. So anyway, I highly recommend, if you feel like you have a story and if you feel like God is asking you to tell it, do not be disobedient, because he'll keep going until he gets you around to it. But also just the mental clarity of it. Even if what you do is write it down in the form of a journal just for you. It's writing stuff down, your goals, your dreams, your visions, but writing down your history, your story can help you see maybe where some things are that you were like, oh, that's why I do that. And it can help you course correct. It can help you just revel in the joy of what a great life you've led too. So all of it can't hurt, and I highly recommend it. It really keeps your mind sharp, and it certainly helps you walk the process of anything that you might need to journey through to the other side. Again, I haven't arrived, but he's certainly walked me through some fire and some high waters. He's been in the furnace with me, and I feel like we're in a phase where maybe I have a little, you know, smoke and char coming off of me, but I haven't been consumed by it. And it's because he's been with me every step of the way. So if you like what you're seeing here and you're enjoying my old school and the components that match up with my book, you'll get to see it soon. I'm hoping in the next couple of years we'll have the book published, but we'll just see. In the meantime, if you like what you're seeing, click the like, the subscribe. You don't have to click the bell if you don't want notifications. And you know, let me know, engage if you have any questions. I'd love to participate with you as well. So thank you for coming to class, and class dismissed.